Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of Half Whit. Unlike the previous 13 episodes, we do not have a sponsor of today's episode. However, instead of that, what I thought I would do is give the Modio Bros another shout out for all the incredible work that they are doing for the Movember Foundation. Also, I probably didn't touch on it too much with Riley about what actually all the things that Movember does. Now, yes, their focus is on mental health and suicide prevention. They are also raising funds and awareness for prostate cancer and also testicular cancer. So, an incredible work. Last week, Riley and his mates, they survived the Modio Man, which was the 4K swim, 197-kilometer ride, and a 43-kilometer run. I was checking the Modio Bros on Instagram out last Saturday, and they all started their swim at 6 o'clock. And I'm pretty sure Riley and his mates finished their run would have been after midnight. So a good 18 plus hours of exercise last week. And it continues this weekend with the 24 hours at the Loop. So on Saturday morning at 8 a.m., the 22nd of Movember, they will be starting their loops of the Adelaide Uni Loop in the city, and they'll be concluding on Sunday, the 23rd of Movember. So I'm going to pop down, I think, probably on Sunday, first thing in the morning, or late on Saturday, and walk a couple of laps while everyone runs past me. But just a fantastic work that all those that Riley and his mates at the Modio Bros are doing. I haven't actually checked what they're up to in regards to their funds, but you can donate to them. Just go to the Modio Bros on Instagram. Click on the link. It's very easy to donate, and just remember, all donations are tax deductible. Now, on today's episode, I'm really looking forward to chatting with you and my good mate Greg Sukochev. Greg and I met in high school. We actually met in primary school, which we'll talk about very soon. But Greg went on and played Olympic volleyball for Australia at the 2012 London Olympics. And Greg's going to talk to us about what it was like being a professional volleyballer overseas. And obviously, we'll touch on his incredible time he had in London in 2012. So without further ado, enjoy episode 14 with Greg Sukochev. Greg Sukochev, welcome to Half Whit.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mate, good to have you here. We've come a long way from the Brighton Primary School Oval in the year 2000. I was on 42 runs. I was keeping CB Downs Primary School in, mate, and then this big, tall, left-armed, over-the-wicket man came on, bowling some chin music, and I nicked one through to the keeper. Do you remember that?
Good times. I don't remember the exact moment.
I can tell you everything, mate. All right. I was so close to my first and only ever half century, and you took that away from me.
I don't think I bowled any bounces back then. I think it was just
mate, you were that tall.
Line and length.
That tall, and they'll just bounce. But so obviously, Greg, thanks for coming on board, mate, and we've been mates since high school. So
yep. Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me. And letting me drone on a little bit, and we'll see how we go.
Greg's already told us that there'll be a part B, but we'll see how we go, mate. Sometimes these can go really quick or they can drag out. But I did catch up with you probably a couple of months ago at our 20-year high school reunion of Brighton Secondary School.
Time flies. Yeah, well, it was a good experience. It was fun to be there, see some faces I haven't seen for a while, and catch up and have a chat with people. So it was good.
It was really good because I think you see a lot of things in movies with high school reunions, and it was our first ever proper one, and I just had a really good time, and it was good catching up with some people that we hadn't seen in 20 years. And as we both said before, we both forgot the same person's name, so it wasn't just us. But look, Greg, let's go back to where it all began for you.
Sure. So, well, I suppose I was. We can go right back to the beginning,
mate. It's your show now. You're taking over.
Okay, I'm in trouble now. So I was born overseas. I was quite young when I moved over. So the country is now called Uzbekistan. Back then it was Soviet Union, but it fell apart pretty quick after I was born. And Dad got a job in Adelaide, and he moved over first, brought Mum and I over 6 months later. I was about 6 years old, pretty young, and grew up in Adelaide after that, basically.
So you and Mum and Dad have arrived not knowing a whole lot of English?
I knew the words yes and no, and I knew what they meant. And some kind of funny moments. I remember people speaking English to me. I remember later what they said, but in my mind, I'm throwing up a coin saying, do I answer yes? Do I answer no? I remember answering yes, and then having a good laugh, and I'm going, I should say no.
So why did mum and dad, or why did dad choose to come out here?
Dad got a good job opportunity. So he works in mathematics. He's a maths lecturer, and he got an opportunity to work at Flinders University. And I think moving to Australia was unique. It's a bit of a difference between Australia and Uzbekistan. So get an opportunity to move and live in Australia was one that my parents would definitely take. So they went ahead and it wasn't guaranteed. They had to get permanent residency and all that and get work and things like that. But thankfully it worked out. I remember when it did work out, they were really pleased. Both mum and dad were really happy when I think they got whatever's made official or whatever it was.
Yep.
But for me, I was just a kid. I mean, it was just, didn't matter too much. Thankfully I made friends quick enough. And get to grow up in Adelaide.
It's interesting you say about your friends, because we were just talking about one of our good mates, Ricky Bias, who you did go to Brighton Primary School with. And
yes,
it's really interesting one that being a teacher, I sometimes talk to kids and be like, oh, look, yep, they might be best friends with you now.
Yeah.
But in 15, 20 years, they probably won't. Now, you went to a wedding on the weekend, there was 6 of you from Brighton Primary School that probably met in year one. So that's over 30 years of friendship. And I guess you and I, we're now pretty much nearly 25 years.
Yeah, that's right. I'm very thankful for that. And actually, like, the friends was a big reason that I went to high school. So the high school that I went to, I mean. So yes, I met some good group of friends in primary school. We just kept on, hanging out basically. And then, so that was Brighton Primary. And then to get into Brighton High, I lived outside of the zone. A lot of
as did I.
Yeah, right. And a lot of my friends didn't at the time. So they were going to Brighton High, essentially, Brighton Secondary School. And I wanted to go to the same school as my friends. So there were two ways to get in: special interest music, special interest volleyball. Not much for a musician. So I gave the volleyball a crack.
Left you with one option.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, no, so shout out to Ricky Bice.
Yep.
It was a great wedding. It was a good evening. And
it's interesting you say that about Brighton Secondary School, because my older sister, we were both out of the zone, living in Seaver Downs, and she actually didn't get in for music and didn't get in for volleyball, but she got in somehow.
Okay.
And that then gave me sibling rights. And
yeah, right. Okay, so there's other paths.
And to get into the volleyball program, I remember on orientation day, I just went on the oval and had to throw a softball, not a baseball, and I was a baseballer, but so they gave me a big softball.
You did do the tests then. You did the test.
That was pretty much the only test.
Okay.
If it was the beep test, I was stuffed. If it was a jumping test, I was stuffed. I was short and hadn't grown yet, hadn't any no hairs under the armpits yet. But I remember I literally threw a softball nearly onto King George Avenue.
Yes.
And I was in the program with yourself. So that's where we met, mate. And I'll also never forget, went to the Royal Adelaide show with you in year 8, There's just vivid memories that I just recall. But you've obviously got into Brighton Secondary School with a volleyball program, and it doesn't take a one time to figure out, mate, you were a lot more talented than me, and they had high hopes for you. They actually thought, I know this podcast is about you, but they thought I was a year older. So
really?
So we're both born in 1988.
That's correct.
So you're about 6 months older than me, but they all thought I was 87. So I got put in all these other teams, and no wonder I was no good, because they were all a year older than me.
So you were disadvantaged, basically.
100%. I could have been anything, mate. And later on we'll talk about obviously your time playing volleyball for Australia and But anyway, I haven't forgot about that. But you're at Brighton, mate, in the volleyball program, and year 8. We used to go over to Melbourne for the Australian Volleyball Schools Cup. Now it's in the Gold Coast. But what are your earliest memories from, I guess, year 8 in Melbourne?
So those Melbourne trips were great, and most of the time spent playing volleyball in high schools, kind of a unique experience. We mentioned special interest volleyball school. So basically, what that means is instead of PE, you play indoor volleyball. So you train and do volleyball. The rest of the classes are fairly similar. The rest of the class in terms of learning about phys ed and some of the biology side of things, that's all the same. But instead of different sports and PE, we got to train and play indoor volleyball. And at the end of the year, as you know, we went on the trip of Australian Schools Cup.
Yep.
I used to be in Melbourne, and
we get the bus over and get the bus back.
Massive tournament, a lot of teams, a lot of games. I remember being back in year 8, didn't know what to expect. Super nervous.
Yep.
I was always quite nervous before any games, but especially when I was just starting out and it's a big tournament and you don't know what's going on really. But it was a good experience. We had a good team, we had a good coach, and
well, and a lot of our listeners, Greg, have or currently do attend Heath Whit High School and also Brighton Secondary School, so they understand all the volleyball side of things, and we're gearing up for a tournament on the Gold Coast in pretty much 3 weeks' time. We'll be over there, so
it's brilliant.
But year 8, you win the under 14s.
We're fortunate enough to win the under 14s. Look, didn't, in my mind, never expect to win. Never not sure how we're going to do. Had no confidence, honestly. And you mentioned Heathfield. Shout out to Heathfield. Most of the time they beat us at state schools.
Not 2001. And I was chatting with a teacher I worked with the other day, and I think Heathfield won 7 years. 2001, Brighton Secondary School, we got the win. I spoke about this on episode 1 with Hayden Jolly, and then I think Heathfield won the next 7. But now Brighton are well and truly stuck at the top of the ladder. They are the best school in Australia. But year 9, mate, you win the junior honours. You had some fair names in your team.
Yes, that's right. So we had a couple of went on to be future AFL stars. Bryce Gibbs, James Seller. There's a couple of other.
Angus Lally played some SANFL for Glenelg for a few years.
That's right. And we had a good team. We had a good athletic team. We had a good coach. Kind of walked us through it and kept us calm when we needed to be. And there's Matt Jones is the name of the coach.
And I remember watching that final. You were in junior honours 1, I was in junior honours 2, and we did no good. There's a common theme there with Whitford, but I'll never forget a good mate of ours, Luke Turner, in the grand final. And I know we'll talk more about your national tournaments and your big games against the Frances and Brazils and Serbias later, but he had the whole game on the bench, and on match point, your coach Jones, he brought him on, and Luke he served on match point, and you won. And I'll never forget it. And as a coach now, and anyone out there that's going to coach, Luke could have stayed on the bench the whole game, but he's like, no, match point, let's bring him on. I'll never forget it.
I remember snippets. I remember actually the game before. So that final we played against Heathfield, that game went to 5 sets.
Yep.
Unbelievable nerves, as 5 sets do. But I ended up playing quite a lot with one of the players. I think he was captain, Sam Bowen. So my nerves were settled when we did the coin toss for the 5th set, and we both had the same drink bottle. So we both kind of pointed that out and had a laugh, and that kind of calmed the nerves down. We managed to win that game, and then thankfully we managed to win the final 3-0, so there's a few less nerves there. But no, Jonesy did very, very well in terms of managing us as a team, as young boys.
So 2003, when you're in year 10, year 15 now, you basically get you got invited. You obviously you're progressing as a volleyballer. You get invited to SASI, the South Australian Sports Institute.
Yes, it didn't happen instantly, by the way. So I remember trying out for you can, if you're in grade 8, you can try out for junior honours. Basically, some guys are athletic and they're good volleyballers. They develop skills pretty quick. They're coordinated, and the coaches might invite them. Hey, just come to try out and see how you go. So I did that, and I didn't get in grade 8. 2 other guys did. I remember. I'll shout out to one of my friends, Alex Bill.
Billsy?
Yep. It kind of. We actually in grade 7 we started playing volleyball 4-a-side. There was myself, Alex, and 2 girls. And one of the girls' mums was the coach.
Were we playing like a Wednesday night?
Yeah, and that's when I truly quote unquote started volleyball. It was my first volleyball. I don't think it was to get into Brighton High. I don't know why. What the reason?
Just a social league.
Yeah, it helped, but it helped out in a weird way. I was familiar with volleyball. So Alex Bill, and I believe it was maybe Angus Lally
Yep.
and maybe Norman Lowe. They got to play up at a high age. I didn't. I wasn't good enough, basically.
Yep.
So it didn't happen for me instantly. It took a little bit of time for me, I suppose, to just develop and to develop my skills. But I was right where I needed to be, like in terms of the competition. I shouldn't have been allowed to play up because probably would have done more harm than good in the end.
And as we're speaking right now, the AFL draft is on TV. And, it's really interesting watching, on tonight, people think it's the be all and end all. Like, it's just actually the start. And there'll be a lot of people that don't get picked up tonight or get drafted quite late in the draft that go on to be incredible footballers.
Yes.
And there's a bit of a myth going around that, you've got to be the best junior, the best. Or that's not, because everyone eventually catches up. And obviously you're quite a tall man, Greg. You'd be 6'4".
I am 6'5".
6'5". Sorry, mate. Sorry to sell you short.
A little short then. No, I'm 6'5". But yeah, no, that's right. It gets it's a bit different for different sports where you have things like the draft. But more generally speaking, the reality is, people keep maturing physically and developing their skills for quite a long time. Even after you're 18.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely not the end.
So 2003, you end up joining Sassy and really getting stuck in your volleyball there outside of all your work you were doing at high school. But it was sort of 2011 where, you were telling me before that you and a former Melbourne and Adelaide Crow footballer, James Seller, who was a year below us, you went across to trial for the AIS, the Australian Institute of Sport. How'd that go?
So that was an interesting experience. So that wouldn't have been 2011. That would have been
year 11.
04. Year 11. Yeah.
2004.
Yes. So we got an opportunity to go to they were called Bendigo camps. I don't know how we managed to do this back in the day. Like young, in terms of the amount of training that the body can handle, I don't know how we did it. So after Melbourne, we played the full week. They had another week of 2-a-day training and basically tryouts at this in Bendigo. And James and I got an invite to that. There was a process, in some sense, a process of elimination, but they held these Bendigo camps yearly. And just so happened that to my knowledge, this is what happened. We just arrived to the last one. We got an invite when we just arrived, and we did quite well. And we were offered a scholarship. I think James also was offered a scholarship. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but I was offered a scholarship. But for next year, so it would have been my year 12. I decided to finish year 12 in Brighton, and so I declined for that in that moment. And we did talk about this earlier, but essentially what happened is I finished year 12. I was glad I did. It was lucky that I still got another opportunity. So what happened? There was another volleyball player also in the same position essentially that I played. Or that I would.
So you were a setter.
I was a setter, and there was another setter that left while I was at year 12. Essentially, while I was finishing year 12. So technically, a spot opened up. And they told me when I said I want to finish year 12, look, they warned me like, look, Greg, we can't guarantee that next year there'll be an opportunity for you to come to the AIS. And so, and that's fair enough. It was kind of a tough decision, but I think deep down, I was studies were important. So I wanted to finish high school where I was. And then thankfully the following year, as I mentioned, a spot opened up. Did another short trial, and then was offered another opportunity.
Yep. Finished year 12, mate. You missed the formal. Would have been good to have you there, but
more volleyball. Yeah, that's all right.
But we were able to continue with our Friday afternoon tennis hits back in the day. They were good times. Okay. So, as well as indoor volleyball, did you play a bit of beach at the same time as well?
Yes, a little bit. So you mentioned Sassy before. I believe it was around year 10. I got an opportunity to go train at Sassy. And I told you this little quick story about it. I'll tell it again. The coach did a really
it's pretty dodgy.
Not dodgy.
Tricked.
Even I don't use those words. I say he did the right thing in a way. Pretty clever.
Lured you into it.
I was a bit arming and ahhing about it. I can't remember the exact details, but basically, let's say I'm offered this opportunity to go train at Sassy, and it was 2 more trainings, so Tuesday nights and Thursday nights, but for 4 hours each session. So it's pretty solid. Maybe that's what I was concerned with. I'm like, free time or something. Who knows?
Yep.
But I was a bit nervous. I didn't say yes straight away, so I was arming and ahhing, and the coach said, "Oh, look, Greg, don't worry about it too much. Just come to this one training session. You can kind of have a look around or whatever." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that sounds fine." But as I mentioned, I rock up to the kind of the training, and then during that, it's essentially everything gets ironed out. We're like, okay, well, this is when the training is on. It's these days and this hours, so you're going to be here, there. And I'm like, okay, right, okay. Sounds like I'm in, and that's
you're in now, and there's no getting
that's locked in. Yep.
So you finish year 12, you head over to Canberra, and did you begin studying straight away, or how did that all work?
Yes. So I'm just going to quickly go back to your beach volleyball point. So during Sassy is when I played a bit of beach volleyball. Not a lot, but we did get an opportunity to. It was. I mentioned the name Sam Bowen before, so Sam and I...
Former Heathfield superstar?
Yes, that's right.
And South Australian Storm player as well?
Yep, that's right. And he played overseas, actually, as well, professionally. But so Sammy and I we got to go to France for Junior World Champs. We won a few games, possibly, but we didn't do anything outstanding there. But it was a good opportunity to play beach volleyball and to get a taste of the different sports. But in the end, me personally, I did enjoy indoor more. So the opportunity to going back to your earlier question, then the opportunity to go to the AIS for indoor volleyball, I was happy to give that a try.
And you did start studying at the AIS?
Yeah, so because I got to finish high school, I started university. So straight away, there's
a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, and I'm a bit probably still naive in many ways now, but back then, it's two things I found amusing when I had already arrived in Canberra. One thing I thought to myself was, okay, I love cricket back then still. I'm like, okay, I probably can find like a club, maybe like on the side. I'll play a little bit of cricket, go to the nets and something like that, and some afternoons. No chance, full-time training. There's zero chance you're doing any other sport. So I just found that amusing that I had that thought in my head that, yeah, you know what, I could play another sport part-time.
Do you know what's interesting? I just saw today the Adelaide Crows footy team, they've actually started a little T20 team. They've entered a team in like a midweek nights competition. Like Riley Thiel thought that I think it took like 4 for 11 or 3 for 11 or something. So,
well,
but back then that would never have happened.
No, that's true. But apparently why? Well, football came about because the cricketers wanted to stay fit during the off season.
Yeah.
So there's some crossover.
Yeah.
But so that was one amusing thing. The other amusing thing is that I thought, okay, I can pick basically any subject that I want to do, which is not the case because there's certain times that you're going to be training.
Yep.
It's hard to get to and from uni necessarily. There's labs, and uni's a big commitment for a lot of subjects. You're going to be in labs multiple hours at a time. So that also was out the window pretty quick. So there's only certain subjects that I could select. But I started studying straight away, and I started studying part-time. And I kept studying almost throughout my whole career, basically.
So you're at the AIS for, I guess, a year and a half, and then you jag your first professional volleyball contract in Sweden.
Yes, that's right. And I, again, quite naive. Even arriving at the AIS, one of the big reasons was it was a good opportunity. So that was, and it had a good reputation back then, just as a location, as a training center. I wanted to see what it was like, but I was not really aware of professional volleyball. I wanted to play for Australia. I kind of understood that much, but I didn't know how the system worked.
Could you say you didn't potentially see like a career out of volleyball, or?
Yeah, well, yes, that's right. So I wasn't even really sure that could be the case. But how it works is it's very similar to, you mentioned AFL. So clubs will recruit or trade players, and they pay player a contract.
Yep.
Contract of that club, you play for that club, and you get paid a salary. So very similar. There's professional clubs overseas. It's an international transfer. go live overseas. You play that season. So that club season. So let's say you're playing. You mentioned Sweden. Say you playing in the Swedish league. So there's lots of different towns and clubs within Sweden. They'll play the Swedish league. You might, and you're going to be playing for one of those clubs. Linköping was the name of the club that we played for. But let's say that club might also play in a European Cup of some kind. You'll play in those tournaments as well, and you'll get paid a salary while you're playing there.
So you didn't need to work?
You didn't need to work. So volleyball is quite interesting. It's not soccer. It's not lucrative, in that manner. But because it's international, because you're an international player, generally what happens is your travel and accommodation is covered. Sometimes a little bit of food is covered as well. So when you look at it from that point of view, you're really spending money on food and drink, really, and any extra, whatever extra spending that you're doing. But you can save a decent amount of money, even though you're not getting paid much. I never made it into the big bucks, but
the big ones, your transport and your accommodation.
Well, that's right. So if that's covered, even though you may not be earning a large salary monthly, at least you're still putting away money. You're still able to save money, and you're not under financial stress or pressure.
Just eating a lot of rice. So you're in Sweden for a couple of years. I remember when you used to come back in the off season. We used to have some good, some fun Thursday nights. And I think I mentioned this on an earlier podcast. How on a Thursday night, the Marion Shopping Centre used to have, I think it was 3 pubs there. It was New York Bar and Grill, and there was Shenanigans, and there was Charlton's Pool Hall. And, we had mates like our mate Alex Bill and another mate Dan Wilson lived, within a kilometre's walk. So and we were still pretty broke. Not broke. A lot of us were students though. But that was some of the best Thursday nights. And, I'd have footy training, then go out, and then Friday go to uni. Then, you just didn't think anything of it. But they were great times. And I remember, obviously, after Sweden, you went to Poland for a year. Is there a stage in your career that you actually ended up having your own manager?
Yes, that's a good question. So it would have been after that second Swedish season, I got a Polish manager, coincidentally enough, and I got that next contract in Poland. It was good. You learn lessons about contracts. Maybe you learn lessons about
start high. Always start with a big offer.
Oh boy, there's some interesting moments that I had. I'll tell you real quick. It was Poland. So I've arrived in the country. My manager and the club coach and the club manager, they all sitting at a restaurant table. We're sitting there together. I don't speak Polish. My manager's Polish. Obviously, all the other guys are Polish. And they start speaking. Manager turns to me and says, "Greg, we're just going to catch up." I'm like, "Yeah, no worries." So off they go, they chat. At some point during the conversation, manager turns to me and goes, "Oh, Greg, so they've got like a little option for you. So you can take kind of this basic salary package, let's say, or you can potentially take less, but if you start more games, you get a bigger bonus. So in the end, if you take that option, you have the potential to earn more money. So what do you think about doing?" I probably should have read the signs in terms of the manager back then, but I was not expected to be put in that position.
Yeah.
Now, naturally, I'm not a big risk taker, and so I took the base standard whatever salary, right? Not for the extra bigger bonuses that could have come with it, and that was 100% the right choice, like without doubt. We had.
So what was the better choice?
The better choice was to ignore the opportunity to make more money.
Good.
That kind of incentive, because I would have made considerably less.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, I don't know any of these details, but the reason is obvious. Like the team was had a good chemistry already. Like they had just won the league, the lower league, to get to the league where I was now playing in with that team. And they had a good team. They had a good setter there already. and like the coach had just coached them. Like I would have had to been some unbelievable superstar, in order to knock, to challenge that. And there were games I started plenty of games, but he started, a lot of games as well. It made no sense. So it was a weird kind of business maneuver, unexpected, but that's a learning lesson. Like, okay, you better kind of keep your wits about you in these kinds of dealings and situations. I guarantee you 100% they weren't just catching up when they were like, hey, Greg, don't worry about us. We're just chatting. We're just catching up. They were talking about, these kinds of arrangements.
And it can be hard when they put you on the spot or in a situation you haven't been in before. And money's always a tricky one because, yes, you just want to play volleyball, you just want to play sport, but you do want to get what you're worth. And there's nothing worse than, I've played some country footy before, and there's nothing worse than when someone's getting paid more than you and that you're performing better than them.
You have to look after yourself.
You do.
Another player, I don't want to bag anyone, business is business, but another player, not myself, had some real issues with that manager. And in fact, they left, they parted ways. And I ended up parting ways with him, but it was fine. It was amicable. It wasn't any drama. But
you spend the 1 year in Poland, and you move to Slovakia. So your next European stop. So you played a season over there, and then, as we spoke about before, you returned to Australia. Now, this is when, Greg, you really started, you trialled for the Australian team for really the first time. And you got your first opportunity to represent your country in the Asian Championships in Iran. Must have been a pretty special feeling.
Yes, in the senior team, that was my first opportunity to play for, I believe, properly, fully in the men's national team. That was my first opportunity. It was a great feeling. I always really enjoyed representing Australia. It's kind of funny, like, so there are moments where, depends on the tournament, but there are times where you get to sing the national anthem as a team, you're kind of lining up, and that's a good feeling because you're with your teammates.
It's the best thing about watching rugby union.
Yeah.
When not just the Wallabies, but some of those, like the Wales and the Irish and the Scots, just when they belt out their national anthem, I couldn't imagine what that would be like for you. But
just a nice feeling.
Yeah. So you start playing some volleyball for Australia. You play another year in Slovakia, and they don't offer you a contract. So must have. Luckily, you had the Australian team. When I say as a backup, but what was it like when you're getting told, "Oh, look, thanks for those 2 years, Greg, but see you later"?
So the way the system works, I suppose it's not in that instance, it's not on the club. So the way the system works is, let's say you get offered a club contract, as I mentioned before, you go play that season out. Seasons can last between 6 to 8 months. After that season ends, generally you come back to Australia and you try to get into the national team. And then the international season begins. So you're presenting Australia and you're playing for as long as you can. And then, when the international season ends, then you go to your next club contract. But as an international player, we moved around a lot. So even before I started, I kind of had this mentality of like, oh, I'd want to go to one club, and I'm with this club for life. But realistically, especially in volleyball, it's not the case at all. You can have that kind of situation happen in the AFL, but for volleyball, especially for someone like myself who needed to improve steadily, I wasn't a superstar from the start. You get some people who go to Italy, the top league, the top team, and they're going to stay there for 5-10 years. Amazing. That wasn't my experience. I wasn't the position that I was in. So you kind of do want to change leagues. You kind of want to leave a club to see if you can make that next jump. Now, in that instance, I spent 2 seasons in Slovakia, and we had success. We had good results. But even I potentially thought at the time, okay, maybe now I can take that. Can I take the next step? Where else can I go? Australia. So I can go to Australia. So the national team, of course, look, you're playing high level volleyball, so it's going to help your career in that sense, without a doubt. And likewise, but for me, Australia, the national team was always the number one priority.
The pinnacle, yeah.
Yeah. So that was you need to live life, so you need to earn money, and clubs that's the way to improve as well, to play high level volleyball in the club season. But that's right. So after that 2011 2012 club season, I didn't get another contract. I stayed in Australia and played the Australian Volleyball League. Still a good experience.
Yep.
Still a good experience. Played with some of the younger guys from the AIS, and we did well.
Yep. And I love it how we were talking before, and this is where I'm really looking forward to chatting about your experience at the London Olympics. But, to get into the London Olympics, obviously, the host nation, Great Britain, they were already in, but you had to qualify for the qualification tournament.
That's right. Yeah, we had qualifiers for the qualifiers, and that was the Asian champs. So that was the Asian champs in 2011, and we had to come top 4, and we managed to do that. And we had kind of a younger team. We had a new coach, but and I think, let's say we came 4th, so it was a bit, not great.
Yep.
But interestingly, the vibe was very positive. Like, okay, actually, no, we're on the right track. We've done this, and next year we're going to do even better, kind of thing. That was.
What was the coach's name again?
John Uriardi. He's a big, tall Argentinian guy.
Yeah, because I remember, obviously, I always had a keen interest in volleyball and yourself, but it was when it started getting some real traction in Australia when he took over and when we started really performing. So I know the boys, Australia made the 2004 Athens Olympics.
That's correct.
But it was sort of, you're moving forward. 2012 was when it started to generate a little bit of buzz.
It was hard for me to tell from the inside, but so John's a very unique character. They probably should have given him more screen time or more time on the mic. He has a strong accent, yep. but he's a very unique personality. So yeah, he led us through that period of qualifiers and then qualifying in 2012, and it was still very close. I remember a moment on the bus. We might have just lost the game, but the message was, okay, guys, we beat Korea, China 3-0, 3-1. We go to the Olympics. Well, it was a clear, direct message, and so everyone's on the same page there. And thankfully, we managed to pull that off that year.
And that was in Japan. So
that was in Japan.
And that must have been a pretty whirlwind 2012, because you just kept playing teams, kept getting that experience, and then what?
Yeah, it was whirlwind in the sense we qualified in 2012, so it must have just been a few months before the actual Olympics. So it was right at the end. I think people had to rush to get our measurements to make sure that we fit whatever our uniforms were.
Because when I heard that, it was a great feeling for us as your friends, knowing that our mate is going to be at the Olympics. And I remember I'd always planned to go over to the 2012 Olympics, regardless if you were in there. But I won a job in Wyler and I moved over there. And look, I wish I'd have taken those 3 weeks off. And my cousin was living in London. I would have slept on her floor. But just talk me through, Greg, I guess, your preparation for the Olympics. And then, once you're there, that first walk into that Olympic village.
It was a great experience. So the preparation, there's a number of things leading into the preparation. So we had quite a few games under our belt already, but we did, I believe, manage to do a tour before. There was enough time to do a tour before the Olympics, so we got even more high-level matches. I remember in other sense, the preparation, people that had already been would come to talk to us and tell some of the experience, some things to watch out for. Don't get kind of distracted by the lights and whatnot. And there's going to be other famous athletes there. Maybe you might, you feel free to talk or ask autograph if you want, but whatever. But remember, that can be, if it's too much, it's going to be another distraction. So we had people kind of warn us from that perspective what to expect. And then arriving at the games, the whole thing was a great experience. I'm really thankful to the volunteers. The volunteers were fantastic throughout the whole duration of the games. At least in my experience, the ones I interacted with, they're always really positive, always smiling, like helpful. But what I saw maybe from some athletes towards the end,
yep,
it's a little bit, maybe they're a bit thought they're a bit too cool, or
yeah. Was the Olympics, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but I guess looking at those other countries, and obviously when I think of volleyball, I think of the Brazil, the Russias, and was that the pinnacle for their volleyball, or was it? Yeah,
100%. So the Olympics really is the pinnacle, is the main goal. The Olympic gold medal. That's what essentially every country is playing towards.
And what's crazy about, I guess, Australia qualifying for that Olympics as well is that only 12 teams qualified for.
Yes.
And I think Australia, you guys were, I think in the world, you're ranked about 20 or 21st or 22nd. So
it's a good point. Wasn't sure what our rankings. I think you're right. It probably was somewhere around there. So in order to qualify, essentially we have to be the best team in Asia. So that's where that qualification tournament comes in.
Yeah.
But
there are a lot of good countries that missed out.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And they try to balance things out. So we will have kind of second chance teams from Europe come to that qualification tournament. But as I mentioned, because it's the Olympics, you have to have there's representatives from Africa, there's representatives from all the continents, and Asia is one. Well, we include quite a large area. So we have teams like Iran still part of that Asian group. But the tournament itself, it was a good experience. I can't remember what
at the Olympics
we're talking. No,
I was actually just going to move on because I know the listeners will be really keen, and I'm actually keen to hear about it as well. But I asked this question to Olympic swimmer Ryan Mitchell, who was on episode 6, and he was at the Atlanta and the Sydney Olympics. But for you, Greg, the opening ceremony in London, like that's just a once in a lifetime opportunity.
It is, and we're fortunate to go. Not everyone gets to go, so I believe we don't play on the first day. So a
lot of the swimmers and other athletes performing, were told not to,
and they stressed us out a fair bit. I remember the coaches were real worried. They kind of didn't want us to go because they're too worried about blisters and you're standing on your feet for hours on end. But that particular ceremony was run really well. It took a while, but it didn't take that long. We weren't that tired. There's no worries about blisters. There's a funny moment in the ceremony. Was a little bit anticlimactic for me. So you're waiting in the tunnel. Australia's pretty early on.
Yep.
So we walk in, and it's a big stadium. So there's noise, but it kind of does drown itself out. You're not right in the middle, but you're not that close. So as we walked in, I didn't hear that much noise. And then I look out into the crowd, and the way they had done it, they had basically dimmed the crowd lights, and the seats had this screen, like a little screen with colored LEDs on it with different colors in front of the seats or in front of the people, and those were lit up. So I couldn't see any people. So I didn't hear that much noise. I didn't see any people. I'm like, oh man, the stadium's empty. I thought, oh man, this is a bit weird, But I was wrong. The crowd was there. It's just I couldn't see them very well.
Just for a few minutes, you're like, why is there no one here?
Yeah, pretty much. But it was a great experience. It was good still.
So the volleyball starts, Greg, and you lose to Argentina in the first game, 3-0, obviously best of 5 sets and close-ish sets, and then you destroy Great Britain, the host nation who didn't put up too much of a fight. But next game, you lose 3 close sets to Bulgaria, and you sort of know that you've probably got to win your next 2 games to, I think you're in a pool of 6 and the top 4 made it through to the quarterfinals, and you're playing against Italy, who are, a very good volleyball nation.
Yep.
You're 2 sets to 0 up against Italy, and then you lose 15-13 in the 5th set. That would have been pretty gut-wrenching.
A little heartbreaking. So I also got to give credit to Harrison Peacock, who played a lot during 2012.
Fellow South Australian.
Also a setter. So he started a lot of 2012, a lot of that year. And he played a lot of both the qualification tournament, not the qualifier for the qualifier, but a lot of the qualification tournament and a lot of the Olympics. Harry played, and look, we had some tough losses, but we had some great wins. We had some big wins, even GB. So you can't, no win is free.
Yep.
Okay, Great Britain may not have a reputation as a strong volleyball nation, but they're the hosts. You never know. They've got a big crowd. So taking care of business there was important. And then we had So Italy,
because Italy went on to win bronze, and you had them.
yeah, potentially. So the other funny thing is, I think actually it was Bulgaria that was the big kind of match where people felt really down. After that, as in we could have done better.
Yep.
But we bounced back and we beat Poland. That was a great match. I didn't play that much. I think I set 2 balls to that poor second opposite, and they were too tight, and he got roofed twice or something like that. So not a great outing.
In for 2 points.
Yeah,
you're off.
Yeah.
Blame the pass, mate. Blame the pass.
Yeah,
blame others.
Well, it's all a team effort. I gave the boys a rest for a couple of minutes, and then they came out firing.
But it must also be, and we did, and you did mention to me earlier, Greg. You're like, look, I didn't play a whole lot. You're still part of the bloody team, but it also, and I watch a lot of basketball as well, and they'll sub guys on in basketball, and they'll put a shot up, and if it misses, they're basically off. Like it must have been hard just to come in mid set when everyone else is warming up and about, and you have to pretty much as a setter, you have to be perfect.
Yes, I was okay with most of those kind of situations. I think in part because I was younger, so for me it was staying warm. You'd follow the game, and I was the one thing that works is you have it your own style. So yes, I can be tactical and I can adjust to the game when I come on, but my style is slightly different to whoever else is setting, to Harry to a little bit, and that'll be enough of a change generally. So you just focused on playing your game and playing well. So I didn't have too many issues coming on and generally making a difference. But it also kind of it comes and goes. It flows. I mentioned Harry played a lot in 2012. Well, in the following year, I had to play a lot.
Yeah.
And so we shared the load, and the Olympics was still a great experience. And yeah, I mentioned I encourage everyone to watch that game against Poland.
2012.
London Olympics is a really a good game, and it was a good result for us. So the other funny thing I wanted to mention. So we beat GB and we beat Poland. I think we beat Poland 3-1.
Yep.
So you would think in a pool of 6, you got 2 wins. Doesn't that mean you get top 4 at least?
Yep.
No, unfortunately in our case it didn't. So
just missed out, and you missed. Just going to the quarters, because that's when you can just get on a little hot streak, and you
never know. Yeah.
Well, you win that first game, and you're playing off for a medal. So, your tournament finishes. Were you able at all, Greg, throughout the Olympics to go and watch any other Australian teams play at all? Any other sports?
Not so much. To some extent, I'm to blame a bit for that. Okay. Yes, I'll still claim that, because I wasn't very proactive. Like, hey, where are the tickets? What can I go see? What can I go do? I did have time to do that, but because we mentioned about the contract, I started training straight away, light gym still, but while I was at the Olympics. So we had a Asia Cup tournament very soon after, and I was asked, because I didn't have a contract, like, hey, do you want to go play in this tournament with some of the younger Australian players? And I said yes. So I started training for that straight away. So I didn't have as much opportunity to go and watch other sports. I did go watch some beach volleyball.
Yep.
Funnily enough. But no, I wasn't. Yeah, great. I don't know. I'm not even sure if I regret it too much.
But also at the time, you might have been thinking that you'll be back here in 4 years' time. So,
well, I was confident, but I wasn't that confident.
But look, I was just happy, Greg, because you brought me back some merch. I've got an awesome big yellow. I wear it all the time. So my sports day team's yellow, so I wear it. It just has the Olympic logo, and I always mention, my Olympic mate, Greg. But it's interesting about like. It's awesome that you played the Olympics. And I was chatting with someone the other day about, the Olympics is once every 4 years, and last year was Paris, and it was you just had to watch it. Like the breakdancing, I probably that was probably something I could have missed. But it's that analogy about the Olympics that every 4 years. Now, I don't watch any water polo.
Yeah.
But when the Olympics is on, I'm 100% watching the water polo, and I think that's the best thing about it. And I'm hopefully the rest of our lives, it is the pinnacle, and even I remember last year's Olympics when, the gold medal match, the US versus France, and Victor Wembanyama's playing, and then Steph Curry just said, "Give me the ball," and that as well as the 2012 Australia versus Poland volleyball highlights. Once you've watched that, put on the 2024 gold medal basketball match.
No, I agree with you. I think and indoor volleyball, I believe, falls into that category of a sport where like more eyes pay attention to it during the Olympics.
It's great to watch.
Yeah,
it is a great game to watch on TV. And going to the volleyball, it's an awesome spectacle.
High level volleyball is entertaining. It's a power based sport. It's fast. There's some freak athletes out there, and it can be fun to watch. But I'm the same. So when Olympics are on, there are sports like wrestling and things like that, and you wouldn't see it any other time. But you watch it and you go, wow, that is quite incredible. Some of these guys are, also athletic.
Yeah, the trap shooting and the Olympics is incredible.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So the Olympics finishes, you come back to Australia, you play for the AIS and the Australian Volleyball League, and then, you start to play quite a lot more volleyball for Australia, qualify for the World Champs next year, get a contract to play in Latvia. So what's that, country number 4 by now? So 4 or 5. Yep. But we were talking a little bit before about, post-Olympics, Greg, and, you got to play in the World League Volleyball for Australia and, knocked off some big teams on your home soil. That would have been awesome.
Yes, that was a great experience. So that was 2014. We got to play. So there's another tournament then called World League. So in volleyball is quite interesting. Maybe times have changed, but back when I was playing, you have the Olympics. Then you have the World Championships, another big tournament every 4 years. You have the World Cup, which is different from the World Championships, but also every 4 years. And then that leaves 1 year for things like Asian Championships, which I think I played every 2 years, but 1 year for Asian Championships. And then on top of that, you have a yearly tournament called World League, which allows top international teams to play against each other. So in 2014, we got an opportunity to play in World League, and we got quite fortunate, quite lucky, or someone put their hand up, whoever did the right thing, and got to host the Group 2 finals. So we did okay in pool play, but I don't think we would have actually qualified, for Group 2 finals if we weren't the host. Someone would have to correct me, but we're fortunate. Okay, now we're Group 2. We're hosting Group 2 finals, and we're hosting Belgium, who were in our pool play, and then France and Netherlands, who weren't. So now, getting towards the pointy end, and it worked out great. So this was in Sydney. We were quite settled. We got to play Canada as part of pool play. I think it's from memory how it happened. So we got to play Canada as part of pool play in Sydney. And then the following week, so we're already there. We already experienced that stadium, that atmosphere playing there. The following week, we get to play in these Group 2 finals against Netherlands first. We're fortunate enough to beat them 3-0. And then France in the final. So France knocked off Belgium, the other team that we played earlier in our pool. And then so we're playing France in the final. And that was a big game, and I remember that game quite well. And I think a lot of things just came together. And it might have been the first time we beat France. I'm not sure.
Yep.
But that win got us to World League finals. So that was again top 6. So just 6 teams get to play off 2 pools of 3. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get out of that pool play, but just qualifying for that and making that was
massive deal.
For me it was. For me it felt like we got to kind of a high not ranking, but we got to play in some kind of final, a world level final.
It's a really high level volleyball as well.
Yeah.
And after that you go to Lebanon for a year playing professionally, and then I remember 2015 you were playing at the Powerhouse, the old it's now Titanium Arena, where the 36ers used to play. Now they play at the Entertainment Centre. But I remember you got us free tickets. Alex Bill, Ricky Bice, a few others, myself, and went to watch in the Saturday night. You didn't even get in the court. So,
so World League continue, but I don't remember playing much in Adelaide.
Nah, I think you played a little bit the night before. You might have played the game the next day, but anyway, I watched you, warm up about 5 times and sit the bench a bit. But we're getting towards the end of your professional career. But you go to Romania for a year, and I guess off the volleyball court, some pretty crazy stories.
The stories from most seasons. I think the one you're alluding to is what we chatted just before. So we're on we play a game. So even though we're playing within the country, it depends on the country, but some cities are a long way away. The roads, might not be perfect. Might be highways and freeways the whole way. So you're traveling by bus, but it might take you 10 hours. So you might go the night before, play the following night, usually evening game, and then straight away you get on the bus and you head back. So you're driving through the night. So in this particular instance, we're driving through kind of a rural area. It's not a big towns or anything like that. We're going pretty quick, I believe, let's say at least 80 k's an hour. And we're going through a small town, and someone, for some reason, I heard what the reason might have been, but I'll keep it PG, basically parked their car perpendicular across the road. So just blocked the road with their car. And they were trying to do some kind of business transaction very late at night.
Yep.
Now, our bus driver had no chance. So he had no time. He's either going to T-bone this person or swerve. So he swerved. So he got off the road. And it's a sharp swerve, and he hits the side of a building. He scrapes along the side of the building, and then he swerves back towards the road, and he hits basically like this big concrete barricade, like a flower pot, so full of dirt, it's big and heavy. So he hits that, and finally we come to a stop. We get out of the bus, have a look at the damage. I walked back about, I reckon it was nearly 100 meters, maybe not quite, but a long way since where we started to where we stopped, and looked at that building that we hit. And we missed the corner of the building by a few meters, I reckon, like really close.
Yep.
And at the time, I was tired after the match. It's hard to get comfortable. It's late at night. You want to try to get as much sleep as you can. I was lying on the floor of the bus, on a towel or something, or on a jacket.
Not wearing your seatbelt?
Well, I was lying on the floor, so it's pretty tough to wear a seatbelt. So if we did hit the corner, who knows what would happen? I might have also hit the corner, basically. But thankfully, the bus driver managed to save us in that instance. Bus totally written off. We hit, I can tell you this, that building that we hit was a hotel. We stayed there that night.
Yep.
So, and we made it back, thankfully, safe and sound the next morning. But yeah, it was, look, things happen, unique experience. Thankfully, no one was hurt at all. Some windows broken and, some commotion without a doubt. But no, thankfully it was okay.
Just shows, when I say you were playing professional, it still has that amateur side of things. You look at the AFL right now, everyone's flying. You fly in, fly out. Yeah. You're getting buses. You're playing a game. Sometimes games would go for 2-3 hours, depending if it's 5-setter.
So it's very standard. The bus travel is very standard, all through Poland and Slovakia. All of those seasons, long bus trips, they're just part of it. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. So your professional career comes to an end. You're not offered a contract. So Sweden, Poland, Slovakia, Lebanon,
Latvia, Lebanon,
Romania, 6 countries. You come back to Australia, you finish your studies in Canberra, you move to Sydney where your mum and dad later moved to. Back to Canberra for 3 or 4 years, and now you've been back here for over a year now. So, Greg, what are you doing for yourself right now?
Eventually I got into IT, and look, with volleyball, for me, it essentially was just the timing. So obviously, most athletes' careers are going to come to an end at some point. Just time, body. A lot of the guys are still playing, actually. Credit to them. Very impressive. But for me, it was a mixture of, yes, physically. Thankfully, I managed to avoid a lot of surgery. You're injured most of the time, but you can manage it. But physically, yes, I was starting to break down a little bit. Lifestyle, it's hard to keep traveling. nonstop. When you're younger, it's great. And I have no complaints actually at all, but it does weigh you down.
Yep.
And then there does come a time where you kind of have to question your financial security.
Yep.
Like I said, I wasn't making ridiculous amounts of money where I'm like, okay, this is what I can do for the rest of my life, and then be comfortable and secure. So those decisions played into my decision to those factors played into my decision to
come home.
Yeah, to come home, stop volleyball, and then real quick, a lot of athletes do kind of struggle with after sport. I was pretty thankful. I did struggle in a way. It wasn't easy to find the next step. Thankfully, I didn't have too much issues with my identity.
Yep.
But it was still a challenge. So finding work, or what am I going to do, and things of that nature. I got a recruitment role, which is straight sales. It was IT recruitment though. So that's kind of.
I remember once when you got back, and would have been another Thursday night. You mean probably Dylan Smith and Alex Bill on the train, and you were basically making phone calls. You were trying to recruit someone somewhere, and I was like,
straight sales.
Good to catch up with you. Interesting you say that about we're both 37 right now, and the thought of playing volleyball and jumping, like I am a walking torn Achilles or torn calf. But in the South Australian Storm team playing last year, you got Brendan Clue still playing, you got Nathan Roberts still playing, Sam Bomb,
Yep, that's right.
And mid to late 30s.
It is possible. It's definitely possible. And even and I knew that back then, so that I knew there are people in my position that played into their late 30s. Rare, but doable.
Yep.
But it was kind of the other factors. And actually, I got offered almost a dream contract the year that I stopped playing.
Yep.
I was offered to go play at a club that I had played against while I was in Slovakia, and I just kind of saw the setup, saw the town. I'm like, this is incredible. Imagine playing here. And then I get the chance to do it, but I knew by then. And that was kind of almost an even clearer decision. There was no second thoughts where I'm like, do you know what I mean? Like if I had gotten offered a contract I had no desire to go to, and I stopped, well then it's like, but me getting offered borderline dream contract, so I knew it was time.
And also, how long you were doing it for, 8 or 9 years. It's got to have a shelf life. You can't be doing that for 15 years. And
overall, if I count all of it, it was 11 years, I'd say, at the AIS initially as well. So 11 years, pretty close to a career.
Full-time volleyball.
Yeah. It's not a bad stint for me. I was glad that I did it. And again, sometimes things kind of work out, I was able to get into an area of work where it's questionable. Let's say I played for another 10 years. Could I have got into that area of work?
Timing.
Yep. Possibly not. So I got into IT. Sales, by the way, was not for me.
I did.
It was really not quite. I tried my best, tell you what, but it was not quite for me. Good experience, and that's how I got into IT. So again,
everything's worked.
Silver linings. Yep. So got into IT, got into software development, and got a more secure job. Yeah.
You're involved in volleyball now at all?
Not so much. I'm around the scene. We got beach volleyball world champs going on in Adelaide right now. I popped out on Friday and watched a few games, and it was fantastic. Really good. And I meet up, I still keep in touch with a lot of the volleyball players like Nathan Roberts and Chris McHugh as well, who used to play beach. But he's involved in kind of the Olympics, South Australian Olympics committee, but a group kind of try to get together and meet up every now and again. So from that perspective, I am, but I'm obviously not. I'm not playing anymore, and so I'm not around the scenes that much.
Just doing your Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So
I like to stay fit. So a bit of gym, a bit of rolling around.
We'll have to I've got a couple of tennis rackets, so we'll have to dust them off.
We'll have to. We've got to stretch our calves though.
Oh mate!
Well, last time I did tennis, I did my calf.
Any sport I do a calf. I'm just big serve, how can I end this rally quickly? Speaking of the beach volleyball on the weekend, D'Artagnan Potts for Australia, former Heathfield student. So
Fantastic!
he was out there running around, and I know a lot of the students scored and watched him. So, Greg, we've been chatting for, would you believe, over an hour now. We might not need a part B. We'll just get through with part A. But time does fly. Like when we're chatting, it's an incredible. You've played professional volleyball, and there's not too many people can say they've done that. I would shudder to think how many flights, how many different countries you've played in. One day, if you're ever driving somewhere or you're flying and you're bored, that's when you start making a list on your phone of what countries have I played in, who have I played against, how many games.
I've done that. I've had to do that for your basic kind of security clearances and things like that, just applying for regular government jobs and stuff like that. So I have a spreadsheet of every border crossing that I've done. I had to source that from a lot of different locations, old betting websites that showed who played who, and then home and away. And I'm like, I played that game for this club, so we were away. So then I checked my passport. I'm like, yeah, sure enough. Okay, that lines up. So a lot of different and memory and sources and photos and stuff like that. But I have a list of every border crossing. So yeah, it's a pretty long list.
Before we finish, Greg, I'm ending on a bit of a tough question, but I think it is important. And another reason for me starting the podcast was hopefully to help a couple of people tell some cool stories along the way. And by the way, mate, in a minute you will be getting a Matt Whitford podcast bumper sticker, mate.
That is beautiful.
It's huge. I'm
not sure where I'm going to put it, but
just put it somewhere in a prominent location.
Okay.
Obviously, Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube. But Greg, have you got any like big regrets, or is there any advice that was really important for you, or something that you wish someone had told you when you were a younger version of yourself?
Thankfully, I don't have any massive regrets. There's stuff that it's almost like you're sitting at a bar and it's a what if, like, what if that
just those two sets at the London Olympics where
well, no, I can excuse it. We won that game. I can excuse those. But there are kind of similar moments like that where you think, okay, well, actually, should I have served from that position to this position? It was a critical moment, stuff like that. But you can't then guarantee the events that happened after would have happened the same. So you lose that game, let's say, you win the next two. And then you go, but if I had just done that, then maybe we won 3 games.
Yeah.
But you can't, that's not how it works, So I thankfully don't have any massive kind of regrets like that. And like I said, there's these kind of silver linings. You're not sure how your path is going to unfold. So I'm actually very, very thankful for the ups and downs. And advice, it's going to be super cliche. I think.
Love a good cliche.
Well, let me see. I think. Well, here's an obvious one.
You only put in what you get out.
Yeah,
that's a good
work
cliche.
hard. Yeah, it's work hard. So, I got to admit, I was fortunate a lot of times. I was given opportunity. Someone, so okay, let's give them a try. Select them for this team, give them a try. But on the flip side of that is. You have to take the opportunity when it's presented to you. And like I mentioned, I'm not an athletic freak. I would consider myself very average in terms of athletic ability, but even someone that's average in athletic ability can still play at the highest level. So I feel that a lot of that came from just the work. And trying to balance it, trying to you do the work up until the breaking point. You try not to break yourself.
It sounds like you had a lot of self-belief as well. That
in sport, yes, I've talked about this before, where it's like, how do you manage confidence and arrogance? When do you slip in? And it's again a cliche, like arrogance and things like hubris, and you're gonna fall. You think you're high and mighty, and then all of a sudden you fall. And I heard that, but I've also gotten to see that like firsthand, where I've seen, not in sport, ironically enough, so you might get away with it in sport. I don't know anyone, young athletes listening, but I've seen it firsthand in the work, where someone really did think of themselves like they were
better than others.
way better, and they made a big blunder. And I think they made that blunder because they thought, well, no one's smart enough to kind of quote unquote catch me. But in sport, confidence helps. Like you need to believe in yourself. You need to be confident in your abilities and the actions and your teammates. So I played a team sport. So
had to put your trust and put your faith in your teammates.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting you said about confidence and arrogance, because you need to be confident. There's times you might need to be arrogant, but you also need to be, I think, quite level-headed, and I do love that, mate. So, Greg, I've loved having you in here, mate, to the North Brighton recording studio. I literally on Saturday, I'll still never forget, mate. I spoke about it earlier in the podcast when you got me out when I was on 42, but I was on that exact oval. I was at the Brighton Primary School.
Isn't 42 a really good score? Don't you have to retire on like 25 or something?
Mate,
so you can't complain too much.
I opened the batting. I think we were 3 for 5, and the dynasty of the CV Downs cricket team depended on it. But you did ruin it, mate. But it's just crazy how it's over 25 years ago, and we're still here now, mate. So, Greg, I've loved having you on the podcast, mate. And look, I've seen you twice in 6 weeks now. Let's make sure we have another catch up over Christmas. And Greg, thanks for being on the Matt Whitford podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
As we come to the end of another episode of Half Whit, a huge thank you to you, Greg Sukochev, for being on today's episode. It was awesome catching up and chatting about pretty much your whole professional volleyball career, mate, and especially when it peaked when you were playing for Australia in those 2012 Olympics. So thank you again to you, Greg. Moving forward on the Matt Whitford podcast, I'm really looking forward to chatting with Jamie Downs, the recruiter for the AFL team, the Western Bulldogs. Jamie's got a pretty busy week as we speak. The AFL draft is going on, so Jamie has assured me either next week or the following week he'll have a few hours free for us to have a bit of a chat, and I'm sure Jamie's got some fantastic stories of his time at the Western Bulldogs, which I think now is over 10 years, and especially during that COVID time where Jamie was laid off and basically had to find another job and return to his normal field of teaching. It's going to be a fantastic chat with Jamie, so hopefully that will be next week. As I mentioned earlier in the year, the Modio Bros, they are up to now $7,000. So last week they were at $5,555. They've still got $18,000 to go to hit their target of $25,000. So please, if you can, spare a few dollars. Pretty sure today's payday for most of the teachers out there. So get onto the Modio Bros page or just go to the Movember website and you can donate from there. That's enough from me. I'm Matt Whitford. Thanks for listening.